Hi everyone, I just wanted to do another part because I still have some tabs up here that I wanted to talk about on this table on Donald Trump and Obama. And I just thought it was interesting how this was coming up in Jeremiah 4 and in the comments over here by Diana, Jesus' servant. She had mentioned that she had gotten a word about the book of Jeremiah after she had her dream that God had given her the book of Jeremiah. It says over here, then I woke up, I prayed for days because I wanted to get the exact message the Lord was trying to reveal to me. One day while in prayer, he took me to Jeremiah, where he speaks of Judah being destroyed because of their sin. And the book of Jeremiah, as far as I know, is all about the destruction of Babylon. But I wanted to confirm that because I'm not sure that I've read the entire book of Jeremiah, so I just pulled up a summary of the book of Jeremiah. And you can see over here it says that these are the prophecies in Jeremiah, that the Messiah would be the descendant of King David, that Babylon would rule Judah for 70 years. The Jews would survive the rule of Babylon, rule and return home. Edom would be overthrown and humbled. So I thought this was interesting that it says that that Babylon would rule Judah for 70 years. And if you take that to modern times, to Mystery Babylon, the entity that would most likely fulfill that would be the UN. And so this is what I wanted to show you, is that it's been just about 70 years since the United Nations Partition plan for Palestine, which was on November 29, 1947. And that was actually 69 years. But if you go to the book of Daniel 9:27, you see that it says, and after 62 weeks, well, first of all, it says, know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem unto the Messiah, the Prince, shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. So this adds up to 69 weeks, which it's 69 years since 1947. Because there's more than one way to interpret weeks. Weeks can be referring to weeks of years, so it could be 7 years, a set of 7, or it could be referring to Pentecosts, so that would mean 7 Pentecosts or 69 Pentecosts, and then Messiah would come. So it says, know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and build Jerusalem unto the Messiah, the Prince, shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks, which adds up to 69 weeks or 69 years. And so it's been 69 years since the United Nations partition plan for Palestine. And then over here it says after the 69 weeks or the 69 years, Messiah shall be cut off. And this word right here, cut off, is the Hebrew word karath, which means to cut. But this word is always used in terms of making a covenant in the Old Testament, because the covenants always had to be cut in blood. And I'll just show you an example right here. It says, and they said, we saw certainly that the Lord was with thee, and he said, let there now be an oath betwixt us, even betwixt us and thee, and let us make a covenant. So it's saying, let us cut a covenant. So you see the word cut right here, and then the word for covenant is the word berith. Okay, so it almost always, when it talks about making a covenant, it says that the covenant is cut, because there always had to be blood that was shed in the cutting of a covenant. There always had to be an animal sacrifice or some type of sacrifice. And so when the Messiah was cut off after 69 weeks, that's actually when Jesus cut the new covenant, when he made a new covenant with many, and it was cut in his own blood. So this 69 weeks, the first half of the covenant was confirmed after the 62 weeks, after the this was actually 483 years from the decree in Ezra 7, which was in 457 BC, and then when you add 483 years to that, it takes you to 27 AD. That's when Jesus began his ministry. And then after the 69 weeks, in the midst of the 7th week, is when Jesus, he confirmed the covenant for the entire 3.5 years, but that's when he cut the new covenant with many. He caused a sacrifice, an oblation to cease, because he was the sacrifice, the ultimate sacrifice, and there didn't need to be any more sacrifices after that. And so he caused the sacrifice and oblation to cease when he cut the new covenant. But then when he comes back, he's going to come back to confirm the covenant. So there's a dual meaning here, because the covenant was cut with the new covenant, but then he's going to come back to confirm the remainder of it. So he's going to come back to confirm the new covenant when he comes back, and the total time is the 7 years. Daniel's 70th week is the total 7 years. The first half was confirmed at the first coming, and then the second half is going to be confirmed at the second coming, and it all begins in the midst of the week, because that's where the prophecy was paused for 2,000 years. It was paused in the midst, and then it's going to continue in the midst, and it's going to continue with the abomination of desolation. That's when it all begins again. And so I'll just go ahead and read it. It says, and he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. And this 1 week, it doesn't mean that the covenant is for 1 week. The covenant is an everlasting covenant, but it's confirmed for 1 week. That's the 7 years of being in the wedding chamber, and the first 3.5 years were fulfilled when Jesus came as the bridegroom. And I'll just show you those scriptures real quick. Okay, verse here, you see if you put in the word bride chamber, you come up with these scriptures, and says, and Jesus said unto them, can the children of the bride chamber mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them? But the days will come when the bridegroom shall be taken from them, and then shall they fast. So that's when the Messiah was cut off, when he was taken away from the bride chamber. But he was already in the bride chamber for 3.5 years. And then if you put in bridegroom, so these are coming up in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, but then if you put in bridegroom, you see that it comes up in the book of John, where John talks about the bridegroom coming. Well, it talks about it in the other scriptures as well, but over here in the book of John, it says, he that hath the bride is a bridegroom, but the friend of the bridegroom which standeth and heareth him rejoiceth greatly because of the bridegroom's voice. This my joy therefore is fulfilled. So Jesus came as the bridegroom at the first coming, but then he was cut off, and so he's going to come back to continue the wedding. That's why it says in Luke 12:36, and ye yourselves like unto men that wait for their Lord when he will return from the wedding, that when he cometh and knocketh, they may open unto him immediately. So he's going to come back to return from the wedding, to continue the wedding that was begun 2,000 years ago. But the point that I wanted to make was about the UN ruling Judah for 70 years, because I believe this is another layer of the prophecy in Daniel 9:27 that refers to the second coming, because this prophecy refers to the first coming, which happened in 27 AD, when Jesus came at the first coming. And I don't think it was by accident that it was in the year 27, and this is talked about here in Daniel 9:27, because I believe that the Jubilee year always has to end with the number 7. Okay, and I haven't had a chance to make a video about this yet, but I tried to explain it here in a comment when I was having a conversation with Jeff Lewis, and I'm not going to read this comment, but you can pause it and read it here. I give a brief explanation of why I believe the Jubilee year always has to end with the number 7. But what I was trying to do is figure out why this year, 1947, November 9th, 1947, why it was the year 5708, and the same thing with the Balfour Declaration in 1917. If you convert it to the Hebrew years, it ends with the number 8. So I was trying to figure out if there's something that actually happened the year before that. So I put in Balfour Declaration 1916, and you see over here it says the Balfour Declaration was a letter dated 2nd November 1917 from the United Kingdoms, and then over here it says in May 1916 the governments of the United Kingdom, France, and Russia signed the Sykes-Picot Agreement, which defined their proposed spheres. So it actually began the year before. So if you convert May 1916 over here, if you put in May and then the year 1916, I'm not sure what the actual date was in May, but you can see that the year that's showing up here is actually 5676, which is the year before. But if you research this a little bit more, over here you see it says the Sykes-Picot Agreement. It says in May 1916 the governments of the United Kingdom, France, Russia signed the Sykes-Picot Agreement, which defined their proposed spheres of influence and control in Western Asia should the Triple Entente, I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, if they should succeed in defeating the Ottoman Empire. And then down here it says the war on the Western Front developed into a stalemate by 1917. And then over here it's talking about the March Revolution of 1917. So this was conditional on a successful defeat of the Ottoman Empire, which didn't happen until sometime in 1917. But then the Balfour Declaration wasn't made until November. But as you can see, it all began before that. And that's the same thing with the UN decision in 1947. You can see that the process actually began sometime before that. And over here it says October 4th, 1946, on the eve of Yom Kippur, President Truman issues a statement indicating the United States support for the creation of a viable Jewish state. So these talks all began prior to 1947. So I believe that the actual year of the Jubilee was the year before, which would have been a Hebrew year ending with the number 7, which would fit in with the pattern, because I believe it always has to be the year 7 as far as the Hebrew year. And as you can see, it's also turning out to be the year in the Gregorian calendars, working out to be the year 7 as well. And I'm about out of time, so I have to continue in the next video.